This is The Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Fort Hall School of Government in Nairobi and Professor Mutahi Nguni. The opposition is currently suffering from what political scientists call a hegemonic gap. This concept was coined by a leading scholar called Samuel Huntington in his 1969 book, Political Order in Changing Societies. When a political order is built around a hegemonic figure, like Raila, then that figure exits before building an institution that can function without him. The result is a hegemonic gap. It is not a power vacuum. It is worse than a power vacuum. It is institutional failure, the kind we are seeing in ODM. Now, the opposition has two hegemonic gaps running simultaneously. Raila Odinga was a hegemonic figure of Kenyan opposition politics for 3 decades. He didn't just lead the opposition, he was the opposition. ODM's institutions, its coalition logic, its fundraising networks, its ethnic arithmetic, its relationships with the streets, all of it ran through one man. When he died, he left the institutions behind that were not strong enough to process the succession. And that's why ODM is splitting between Sifuna and Oburu. That's why Winnie cannot inherit what her father built. The mobilization is still there. Kenyans still want an opposition. But the institutional capacity to channel it died with Raila. Classic hegemonic gap.
The second hegemonic gap has been created by Uhuru Kenyatta. It is subtle and more dangerous. Uhuru is not dead. He has not formally exited, but he has vacated the hegemonic position he occupied without allowing any successor to fill it. Uhuru has manufactured the hegemonic gap by design. You see, the Raila gap created demand for the opposition to breed a new hegemon around whom the opposition can consolidate. And the natural candidates to fill the Raila gap in 2027 are Kalonzo and Matiang'i. But Uhuru's manufactured gap prevents any of them from consolidating. He elevates Kalonzo in Azimio, but builds Matiang'i in Jubilee. He endorses the idea of unity, but introduces complex procedures that make unity impossible. He attends AU summits with Ruto to bond, while his coalition can't hold a simple retreat to agree on a candidate. This way, the hegemonic gap stays open. And as long as it stays open, the masses are mobilized, but there is no institutional architecture to channel their ambitions. As a result, the hegemonic gap widens, frustration grows, principles start fighting, and the opposition coalition degenerates as fast as the 2027 election is approaching. But is this deliberate? Yes. It is called the Byzantine equilibrium, dating back to the Ottoman Empire 1,000 years ago. It sounds complex, but allow us to break it down.
The Byzantine Empire survived for over 1,000 years, and the core reason was not military strength. It was succession management as statecraft. The Byzantine empires rarely named a single clear heir. They elevated multiple candidates, giving each one a title, a command, institutional resources, and just enough proximity to the throne to believe they were next. The key was that none of them knew for certain. Each candidate was strong enough to be credible, but dependent enough to be controllable. This was not carelessness, it was architecture. The emperor retained power precisely because he was the only person who could resolve the ambiguity. Every faction at court needed him to make the final call. And he knew that if he chose one of the successors over another, his powers would vanish. That is why he kept them hoping, never satisfied. This is the Uhuru playbook in opposition. First, he appoints Matiang'i deputy party leader of Jubilee. Then, he has PNU endorse him as presidential candidate for 2027. And simultaneously, he appoints Kalonzo party leader of Azimio. Then, Matiang'i complains. He declares that the opposition candidate must be selected through a scientific process, not the Kalonzo boardroom consensus. In the end, who will resolve this fight? Uhuru. He created it. But once he resolves it, he loses power. He will prolong the Byzantine game until 2027.
But why would Uhuru keep Kalonzo and Matiang'i in suspended terror? Why would he continue the Byzantine game of suspense too close to the 2027 election? The answer is simple. If Uhuru is playing for 2032, the hegemonic gap is not a problem he needs to solve. It is a condition he needs to maintain. He needs the opposition to fail in 2027 without the failure being attributable to him. He needs Matiang'i and Kalonzo to burn their political capital and lose. He needs the gap to persist through 2027 so that by 2028, 2029, 2030, the opposition is so exhausted and discredited that when the Kenyatta family offers a fresh candidate, someone untainted by the 2027 defeat, the field is clear. This is the hegemonic gap being weaponized. You do not close the gap. You keep it open until everyone who might have filled it is destroyed. Then you close it on your own terms with your own candidate on your own timeline. A candidate called Uhuru Kenyatta for 2032. What about the Raila hegemonic gap? How will it be closed? Simple. ODM died when its hegemonic leader Raila Odinga expired. This is the tragedy of one-manism in politics. Oburu will fail and Sifuna will fail. And Ruto and Uhuru will cannibalize its caucus. And that is how it will end.